And if I feel maybe I'm talking with my kids, they get distracted, run out of the house, I'm like, oh, no one's around. Before I know it, I'll like pull this out of my pocket and I'll just be like going to the news, going to Facebook, or playing some like I did something while sitting there. Maybe there's somebody who knows that feeling. You feel that you want something, you're looking for something. If it, I will give you the answer you're looking for. But if you've tried it, you know it's not true. You can play countless hours of that Candy Crush game. If I can go back a few years, answers the longings of your soul. If anything, it makes you feel a little more empty at the end of a couple hours. You're like, what did I do? I'm on level 308, but what does this accomplish? Does this matter? It leaves you feeling not peaceful in this for a month to plug it in. And I'll say there's a couple make me feel like there's some progress being made. My first argument for progress is one of my children has begun to call our Harry Potter closet the phone booth. So I'm making some strides. They believe that little closet is now the phone booth. And that's where if you need to text somebody, sure, go in, step into the closet, take care of the communication work you need to, and then step out of the closet, but don't just be on your phone. You, that phone is an obstacle to experiencing the transcendent nearness and peace of God that speaks to my soul and what I actually want. So I've come to see contending for the phone booth as a way of contending for a deep union, a loving union with Jesus. And so that's a practice. I'll throw that out. That's what I'm experimenting with. But I would love to hear other experiments you're doing. This one is not like sacred. I stole it from a guy named Cal Newport, and Josh shared his stuff with me. He's an interesting guy, but not a Jesus follower, but trying to maintain a contemplative life. And this is one of his practices. And I found it incredibly valuable for me. It's helped me see each moment. I now, when if I have a negative interaction with a child or wife, I no longer just go for my phone. I'm like, okay, no. More than I want to just find something to do, I want to contend for loving union with my spouse, with my kid, with the God of the universe. Loving union is possible, and for me, on finding my phone is one of my biggest obstacles. I had a great quote on it, but I lost it. So imagine you heard it and it was deeply profound. Philippians 8, Paul keeps going. He says, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Whatever you have learned or received or from me or seen in me, put into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. That was surprising. Uh, what I think is interesting, that first part about looking for the where your attention is on the right and good things, deeply internalizing the story that God is telling, is great. And Josh and Tony have really hit on that and helped us see some ways. So I'm gonna I don't know if that's because of me or something I'm doing. I have a weird ear. I'll try. Hopefully that doesn't keep happening. I'm sorry. Uh, Josh and Tony have said some great things about that. So I'm not going to talk about that anymore. I'm really distracted by that noise. I'm betting you are too. Uh, Grab a mic. I'm going to keep trying, and Adam, you tell me if I need to at some point, or I'm just going to keep going. But I love this line where he's saying, put into practice. And he puts like a pretty broad category of things that maybe they have seen in him. Whatever you have learned or received or heard or seen. This is like blanket lists. If you think you've seen a hint of something in me, put that into practice, is the invite he gives to the Philippians. And he's not with them when he's sending it. The Apostle Paul, that's what I'm referring to. He's not with them, but he's inviting them to put things into practice. And he's writing this letter to a community and hoping that their community consciousness remembers more collectively about who Paul is and what he did and how he modeled the way of Jesus. And so I think Paul is giving this wide category. Whatever you've seen or observed, man, put that into practice. And so I want to give us an idea, a concept that will be underwhelming to you. But it's been amazing for me. Have you ever ran into this concept where you're like, this is amazing, and then you share with someone, you're like, yeah, pretty lame. You're like, no, and you try again and like, still lame. Get ready. I'm excited, but you're gonna at the end of it like lame. So it's this concept. You ready for it? Community of practice. Yeah, underwhelmed, right? Let me read you the definition so you can remain where you're at. It is a group of people who share a concern or a passion for something they do. Not they like or have an affinity for, but something they actually do, and learn how to do it better as they interact regularly. So this is almost like in teaching circles, which for the teachers out there, please give me grace if I make a misstep here. It's only because of ignorance, not ill intention. But a community of practice is almost held up as a way of learning together rather than like the sage on the stage, which lets me feel better because I'm not each other. The people doing the work that are putting in the daily rhythms. Let's just say like, Ryan, you have something to say to me and I want to hear it. Just because I'm up here on the mic doesn't mean that I cannot hear from you. I need to hear from you. And as we practice this thing of following Jesus, contending for loving union with him, we need to each other on this. And that if it's only up to me to come up with all the good ideas, like what a limiting bandwidth. If it's only the ideas I can experiment with, like, man, sorry, we can only do what I can learn. That's not good. Or what Tony can learn, or what Josh can learn. We want to be a community that is putting tons of things into practice. And as we find good practices, they work together and sing. So let me give you a few examples of community practices that could be there. A group of accountants that work with Excel every day, and then they jam out when they make a formula. If you've tried it and you made a formula in your own budget sheet and it like works, it adds up all your expenses and you're like, oh, I'm a man, a myth, and I made an Excel formula and it works. And I have one of those, and I understand anyone who's an accountant is like, you baby, a YouTube video could have done that real quick. I'm like, yes, but this baby made it. And I'm like amazing on my spreadsheet for my personal family accounting. But accountants getting together and hashing out a really complex it's a community practice. They're working on something, they're passionate about it, and they're coming up together with the beautiful way. Could be a group where they're there early, got some overalls on, drinking just $1 of coffee, but gonna be there for a long time. This feels like some rural places you've been if you've ever rolled in a McDonald's. Old guys there, they're farmers. They all practice farming. They're debating together when the right time to put a soybean in. What's the right time to buy an animal? What prices are the right? And they're together crafting out how to get the most from the land or how to produce the most. And they together figure out farming, but they do it together without one clear leader. They're working together as you get together with your community and you try to figure out what are the things we're putting into practice. What is helping you contend for loving union with Jesus? Loving union with your spouse. Contending for God's loving union with your neighbors. What are you putting into practice? Like, I want to know. I want to hear. Let me just say, I'm not just saying that hypothetically. I would love to hear it. If you would reach out, email me, david.nefw at, I think I butchered that, david.lawson@nefw.org. I would love to hear, or many of you have my cell phone. Just reach out and say, hey, here's what I'm trying. This week, I would love to make some videos where we just interview each other and I hear, what are you experimenting with that is connecting you with loving union with God, or you're contending for loving union with God with your neighbors. I want to share a practice down that with a story. So I would say I've done less good at this one. The phone booth, I've been doing pretty good. And then this one, I'd say like underlived, but the Lord's still taken like a small inkling of faithfulness and done something with it. So I'll tell you that story. I'm sure it's my fault, but I don't know what to do. I have been trying with my neighbor, Evan Roberts, where you're at. We've been trying to walk our neighborhood and then pray as we walk and be open to God directing us towards a neighbor. However open or wide open that is, it's like a dangerous space. We don't know what the Lord will do, but we're trying to stay open and moving and listening. And so we've been trying to do that. Ideally, we would have loved to hit every day, but it's not. is much less than every day, but it's some days. And so let me tell you a story that's happening because of that. And I hope this mic doesn't travel all the way to my neighborhood because I live right there. But we've been walking, and the first thing that happens is I'm suddenly connected to the neighborhood gossip. Anybody have this where you try to do something, you're like, I don't think I wanted this. So I'm hearing gossip about all my neighbors, and it makes you think like, feels really insecure because like, you say that about them, what are you saying about me when I'm not here? I have a lot of high schoolers over and middle schoolers. Like, what do you think is happening at my house? Or am I annoying? Do you dislike me, but to my face for saying this? And then also, when you're around gossip, it's so hard to not come and have something like, oh, I got something to share. I'm a team player. I share on gossip. So at first it was like, damn, I'm hearing gossip. But the Lord used that gossip in a helpful way. We heard while we were away, we went on the cheapest vacation possible back to my parents' house in Minnesota, sleeping in my old childhood bedroom. Anybody back to your parents' house for a vacation? COVID vacation at home? We went there, we were away, and something goes down in my neighborhood. There's like some people drinking some beers, maybe a few too many. Another neighbor is trying to come into the cul-de-sac. The cul-de-sac is full of motorized vehicles, which just, if you feel like that was wrong, all my neighbors agree, yeah, that wasn't helpful. This lady tries to pull into her driveway and is blockaded by a plethora of people, children, and motor vehicles. So she comes out and tries to say something to one of the people. It doesn't go quite right. This person, my neighbor, then gets called something down the continuum of a racial slur. It gets a little pushy. Police get called. I get to hear about it through gossip later. And then I am wrestling with, I wasn't there. If I was there, there's maybe clear actions I need to intervene. But if you've ever like heard about something that was unhealthy in your neighborhood, and then you're like, now what? I now know about information. What do I do with it? And my first thing is like, oh, I wasn't there, so I have no obligation to work towards health in this. And what do I know? I barely know anything about racial reconciliation, and shoot, I'm kind of awkward, and my syntax is kind of wild. I can't control everything I say. I have the propensity of foot and mouth is huge for me. I was meeting with the community of guys, shout out to the guys that helped me make the right move, talking about it, and together we were like, yeah, no action is definitely the wrong action. Doing nothing puts you on the side of being okay with people being called racial slurs in your neighborhood. I was like, dang, I love the no action. So it felt like I need to knock on the door and just say like, hey, I'm not okay with anyone being called a racial slur in my neighborhood. And I'm for you, and here's my be a really big weirdo. And so I finally, it's a lunchtime, I come home, I knock on the door, and it's not my adult neighbor, it's her child. And I'm like, dear Lord, what now? You've ever felt like, I was ready for this, but not that? Like, whatever. Full steam ahead. Lord, please let me not be too big of an idiot. And I'm like, hey, heard your mom got called a racial slur in our neighborhood. That's not cool. And I'm not cool with that. And I don't think anybody should be called a racial slur in our neighborhood. And I want you to have my number. In case anything happens and you need somebody, we're here, we care about you, and want you to feel safe in this neighborhood. And then it got really awkward from there. I got him my number. Later, I walked back to my house, and I'm like, I did it. Awkward move that the Lord wanted me to do. It's done. I did it. But as I continued to kind of walk and let the Lord have access to my heart, as I walked in the neighborhood, it felt like not done. Good action, faithful action, but you're not done yet. I don't like awkward as much as you probably don't like it. Maybe a little less. I seem to have a high tolerance. I was like, oh, fine, I'm gonna keep waiting. So another opportunity came. My neighbor was driving down, and I was playing knockout basketball with a bunch of high schoolers in the cul-de-sac. And I just felt like from the Lord, like, here's your opportunity. And part of me right away was like, no. You're already doing a good thing for the Lord. And with high school kids, this is a great thing. You don't need to feel the burden to do that as well. Like, you can't do everything. You're not Jesus. Like, if you've ever tried to do something good, there's plenty of voices in your own head that talk you out of making the right action. So I'm like, whatever. So I flag her down, as awkward as that is, and say, get her to roll her window down, We start a conversation, and I go through about the same shtick I did with her kid. Like, hey, heard you got called a racial slur. I don't think that's cool. We're not for that. And I think the Lord took like my awkward faithfulness and this it's not world peace, and I don't want to exaggerate this, but it is this glimpse of unity that stands juxtaposed against the disunity. And I think my practices aren't everybody's practices, and the action God's calling me to isn't everybody's actions. But I think the invitation, if we hear it together, is the Lord is inviting you and me to put something into practice and to share that practice with the people around us, to discern it in community, and together move towards loving union with God. So we have this transcendent peace that passes understanding, and we can then contend for God's loving union with our neighbors. And out of that, we can see a glimpse of the kingdom coming, maybe even in our cul-de-sacs or the streets, depending upon which neighborhood you live in. And this loving union with Jesus is totally worth contending for. And that's why when we as a community, we come to communion because we want this mysterious union with God. We want transcendent union with God. And he's offered us this simple thing of taking a cup of juice or whatever you filled it with, and this bread, and remembering that union with Jesus is possible. And that he has done the work to make it possible. He is near and he is present. And as you put these elements inside of you, mysteriously, we remember that union with Jesus is possible, and he invites us into that. So use this practice of communion as you have it. We're not going to offer it up here, but if you brought a cup of coffee or if you brought something to eat, this is your moment to experience that union with Jesus together. And then to look and contend for this moment throughout this week. And hopefully together we'll have some practices we could share about this. I'm going to pray for us and then take them as you would like. Jesus, we need and want union with you. So many things get in our way and our neighbor's way. Distance us from you. You are the thing that satisfies. We want and need loving union with you. And our neighbors want and need loving union with you. Show us the way, Father. We need you. All these things we say in the name of Jesus. Amen.
We're going to sing one more song of response. You're welcome to sit or stand, whatever would be the most conducive for you this morning in responding to God together. God of creation, there at the start, before the beginning of time. point of reference. You spoke to the dark and fleshed out the wonder of life. And as you speak, 100 billion galaxies are born. In the vapor of your breath, the planets form. If the stars were made to worship, so will I can see your heart in everything you made. Every burning star, a signal fire of grace. If creation sings your praises, so will I. Oh, so will I. God of your promise, don't speak in vain, no syllable empty or void. For once you have spoken, all nature and science follow the sound of your voice. Oh, and as you speak, 100 billion creatures catch your breath, evolving in pursuit of what you said. If it all reveals your nature so alive, I can see your heart in everything you say. Every painted sky, a canvas on your grace. If creation still obeys you so alive. Oh, so will I. So will the stars were made to worship, so if the mountains bow in reverence, so will I. If the oceans roar your greatness, so will I. For if everything exists to lift you high, so will I. The wind goes where you send it, so will I. If the rocks cry out in silence, so will I. The sun of the praises sing for shine. We'll sing again 100 billion Out of salvation, you chased down my heart through all of my failure and pride. On a hill you created, died of the world, abandoned in darkness to die. And as you speak, 100 billion failures disappear. Where you lost your life so I could find it. If You left the grave behind you, so will I. I can see your heart in everything you've done. Every one desire in the world of our call. You have been chosen to surrender, so will I. I can see your heart filled in different ways. Precious one, child, you died to betray. Leave your life to others, so will I. Like you would again 100 billion times. But what measure could amount to your desire? You're the one who never leaves the one behind.
Hey, before I say the blessing here, we recognize the students and the transition that they're going to be having this week, but I also want to recognize any educators that we have among us who are going to be back in classrooms or anything like that this week or next week. You just raise your hand. If you just lift them up high so people can see you. So just church, take a look around at them. I'm going to have us do something here in a minute. So teachers, you put your hands down, but I just want to acknowledge that, first of all, what you do year after year is incredibly significant, and we all believe that. And we just know that this year, with all of the unknowns and the precautions and everything going on because of the virus, we just want to say God is with you in that classroom day by day, and we are with you. And so whenever I say this blessing, or whenever we say this blessing at the end of the gathering, it's for all of us, and today that's true. But in a special way, I want us to say it over these brothers and sisters. And so if you saw someone with their hand raised, maybe you just, educators, raise your hand again. We'll just reach our hands out. We won't lay hands on you because obvious reasons. But just reach your hand out if you're willing. You see someone there. And again, this blessing's for all of us, but it's especially for you, teachers and educators today. And so may God bless us and keep us and make his face shine upon us. May he be gracious to us and grant us wisdom and shalom. And may the result of it be that those students, their families, the city of Fort Wayne, and the nations of the earth sing for joy. And may the result of all of it be God's glory and honor and praise forever and ever. In the name of King Jesus. And everybody agreed and said, amen.
And as you speak, 100 billion failures disappear. Where you lost your life so I can find it in you. If you left the grave behind you, so will I. I can see your heart in everything you've done. Every heart designed in the world of you have been chosen to surrender, so will I. I can see your heart filled in different ways. Precious one, the child you died to save. You gave your life to others, so will I. Like you would again 100 billion times. But what measure could amount to your desire? life.